Working on the final book in a series obviously presents some very specific challenges, many of which I did not expect. So yeah, let's get into the challenges and takeaways and all that fun stuff for the final book in a 7-book series. My goodness. All right, the first thing is that we have to wrap up everything, literally everything. Okay, maybe not everything, because we are planning on a kind of like a follow-up book or a series, but like, I mean, we still want to make this a really satisfactory ending, you know, so people aren't like, why did they just make it incomplete? Yeah, because I mean, pros and cons to, you know, leaving it open-ended so people like have to read the next series and the next book, but like personally, that's not my jam. So yeah, we're like, strong ending, even if there's more. And honestly though, like I never really grasped how many characters, how many plot threads, how many like factions and powers, etc. that were in this series until it's like, oh, I need to give each and every one of them more or less a satisfactory conclusion. That'll be so easy. No, it's not. The biggest obstacle, honestly, was just keeping track of everything and making sure we didn't forget anything. Like, in an early draft, I was like, I thought we had gotten everything, but then I realized there was one character who, like, is actually very important. And I was like, we never said, like, did this character live or die? Like, the character just kind of disappeared after a certain point in the story, which is bad. So, like, yeah, there's a lot of, like, big and little things that you just gotta make sure you got them all. And yeah. And I'm just like, as we put this book out into the world, I know I'm just going to be like waiting for somebody to point out something that we didn't, that we missed. Yeah. The second big takeaway from the book is that honestly, just Google Maps saved my life here. Honestly, like Google Maps is such a great tool for writers if you are writing in the real world, a book that takes place in the real world or is based off of something in the real world. So for this series, we used Google Maps several times when writing to figure out how far it is from like point A to point B on foot. Yeah, you can do that. You can not only, can you look up like how many miles is it from X to Y? You can also see how long would it take to drive there? How long would it take to ride a bike there? How long would it take to walk there? Like that is such awesome information. It is a lifesaver. And yeah, in the previous video for the book before this last one, I mentioned that I had to research more into like the layout and the land maps, good gracious, landmarks of like the Lake District area and things like that. And this time I had to find a setting for the final battle. And this was really interesting because I basically went through the same process that some of the characters in the book go through of like where would be a, you know, reasonable and strategically smart place for this final battle to happen if our main characters are able to like, you know, try to choose a location. Where would they try to, you know, orchestrate things that the final battle would be happening here and why? So that was really fun. And honestly, it would have been just incredibly hard and frustrating without Google Maps because it lets you look at not only how many miles are in this area, but also like terrain, elevation, landmarks, distance, where little things like lodges that like probably people have forgotten exist or things like that, where are they, and so on. And like you can also do that street view thing where you can like zoom down into the street, and like to be honest, the areas that I was researching, a lot of them were just so remote that some of them just did not have the street view option at all for a lot of the areas. But like where I could get it, it was pretty freaking awesome to be able to have that. Honestly, the Street View tool is so awesome. If you are writing, like, even if you're writing a complete fantasy series, if you're like, oh, I want my fantasy city to look like a combination of historical Kyoto and I don't know, St. Petersburg, you can use the street view to like go and look around in those cities and see what it'd be like to walk through them to make your weird amalgamation of the two of them in your fantasy book. I mean, you just get to see more and pick up on more details, and you can make the reader really feel like they're in this fantasy location. Like it's just so awesome. I love it. I think it's so important to be open to try like just weird types of research, because it can be really fun, but it can also just be so helpful. The third kind of takeaway, I guess, or the thing that stood out to me, is the timeline of the book. So this book story isn't just 1 or 2 days long. I won't really say how long it is because that could be kind of like giving things away. But let's say that there were at least, a few days to account for, several days. So near the end of like whenever we were doing the content and the line edits and we're like getting it ready for, copy editing, which is like the final stage of editing just about, I was like, let's do a continuity check, which mostly meant just checking out the timeline and making sure everything added up. By the way, you should do this timeline check early, like when you're doing the outline or whenever you're starting your first draft. Do it then. Don't wait. Don't wait like we did, because while we were looking into the timeline at this very late stage of the writing process, I was like, time is moving differently for one group of characters than for the rest of the entire story. And this was not intentional, and no, time magic was not involved, and nor could we actually make it involved. There is time magic in our books, and in some cases it could work to like make it involved to make things flow differently for some people, but like no, it wouldn't work here. So either we could change things for this one specific group of characters who are missing a day, or we can just change the rest of the story. There were pros and cons to doing either of these options. It was not a fun decision. It was especially not a fun thing to come across near that very, very late stage of writing. Yeah, so even if you're working on your 7th book, for me it's my 8th book, published book. I mean, I've written other books before this too. Like, you could still do really stupid things, like waiting until way later than you should have to check out your freaking timeline. Let's do it earlier. This is directed at future me. Don't be silly, future me. Do this stuff earlier. Don't think you can wait. Just do it. Just do it. Finally, what is the biggest takeaway from this publication process of this final book? I mean, as much as I can tell you now before it's actually published and I'm recording this. So like, in regards to co-writing, it was pretty awesome with this book. We were able to just kind of like relax and not freak out on each other. We both had big life changes while working on this book, and like, we were like, yeah, like, it's a bummer that it's going to take about a year to complete this book and get it out there. But like, because we have the magic of communication and just, we didn't want to destroy morale, we were like, let's be realistic and be nice to ourselves. Like, let's just take about a year. Putting this out earlier would be extremely hard. Plus, honestly, if a year is the longest we've had between releases, that's not that bad. Like, it's not great for indie publishing, I'll be honest, but this could just be a one-time thing and that would be fine. And also, this goes back to the whole thing of you and your co-writer having similar goals and things like that, because like it's important for like, for sanity, because if one of us was freaking out this whole time about how like, oh my gosh, the last book is going to take forever to come out, this is so horrible, our writing careers are ruined forever, we suck, like that would just be miserable for the both of us. So yeah, we were just at a point where we could relax, not freak out on each other, be realistic, work our hardest, but also just, go with the flow. It's fine, it'll work out. And in regards to publishing in general, I think I'll have some better takeaways once we've done the publishing. Honestly, because I'm kind of excited because, like, we can do things, having a box set. So yeah, but just, like, doing things differently that you can do whenever you have, like, a whole series. And now we're also going to start to look at doing, like, audiobooks because, like, I know that some writers do get the audiobooks made while they are working on the series. We waited mostly because I was nervous about it. I'll be perfectly honest. I was like, I don't know. I'm scared of new things, I guess. But I'm really glad we waited because I think I might have mentioned it earlier. I don't know. But like, part of the magic of indie publishing is that you can go back and edit things. And we have had to do that a couple times along the past few years. So like, if we had the audiobooks done as the books were coming out, we would have basically had dated versions of the audiobooks. They would have been like audiobooks of like previous editions. Yeah, like, I'm really glad that we waited, and I'm not saying that like my choice was right because I was scared. No, like, it worked out nicely. It just happened to work out nicely. Lucky for me, it did. And yeah, I am excited. And at some point I'll have to do a video about like the aftermath of publishing the final book in the series. And yeah, so yeah, that's it for publishing book 7. And there is one more video in this month's series about publishing and co-writing a series. It'll cover a few major like fun parts of the experience. It's a still useful video, I think, but like more of a whimsical video. So I'll see you all in that next video. Bye bye.